Welcome back this morning to our Financial Administrative Services Committee. On this committee are myself, Councillors O'Connor, Councillor Berg, and Mayor Clayton. So we'll call the meeting to order and we'll look for adoption of agenda. And Councillor Berg.
Thank you, Chair Palat. I would like to move committee adopt the agenda as presented.
Okay, thank you for that motion. Vote. That carries. We have no delegations, so we'll move into our reports and we'll start with our service area update with Chief Whiteway, please.
Thank you, Chair Palat. In assessment and taxation, the summer students have finished inspections and they're wrapping up their summer by updating pictures of properties. And assessors are working on growth estimates for 2025. Within the financial services team, staff are working on July month-end variance reporting with departments, as well as first draft of the 2025 budget will be reviewed by the corporate leadership team this week in preparation for fall budget deliberations. Procurement is working on cost reduction projects and is supporting the Eastlink shutdown as needed. Bids on the market include residential snow clearing and snow hauling, both of those closing this week. There's tree grove supply and installation, fire smart vegetation management, the financial audits service requirements, concrete grinding, and supply of ice control material for roads. All bids can be accessed through the City of GP website under bidding opportunities. And within our GIS and IT team, network teams continue to re-architect wireless network with the goal to increase bandwidth and network speeds at various city facilities. And that does wrap up my update for this week.
Thank you for that. Any questions for Chief Whiteway? Seeing none, we'll keep going on the reports and we'll come back to you for our Q2 financial reports, please.
Thank you, Chair Palat. So respectfully, I'll assume you've all reviewed the report and the attachment, and I'll just highlight a few items for the second quarter. So the statement of financial position, included in the appendix, starting on page 3, presents the city's financial and non-financial assets, as well as financial liabilities as of June 30th, 2024. Total financial assets of the city as of this date are $406 million. The total financial liabilities of the city for the same date are $231 million. This is a slight decrease from the prior year of almost $12 million. As of June 30th, the city is in a net financial asset position of $174 million. This indicates that the city has sufficient financial assets to settle existing liabilities and support future operations. Moving to pages 4 and 5 of the report, the Statement of Operations reports on the revenues, expenses, and results as of June 30th, 2024. Revenue collected as of this date has increased $7 million from the same period last year, and total expenses are $101 million, a slight increase of $3.8 million from this time last year. I'll concentrate now on the operating variances projected by year-end. These are covered on pages 6 and 7 of the report. Operating variances are a result from differences between the approved budget and the actual financial results. Management's responsible to actively monitor and manage the overall operating results and ensure that service delivery is maintained at acceptable levels and that operational costs are contained within available resources. For the reporting period ending June 30th, 2024, the city is currently projecting a surplus from budget of $407,000. This equates to a 0.2% variance of the city's total operating budget. The greatest pressures on this year's operating budget are an anticipated shortfall in court fine revenues due to provincial restrictions. This is partially being offset by savings on the related enforcement contract expenses, which are contingent on the revenues being generated. To note on the enforcement and policing side, subsequent to this report, the RCMP final reconciliation invoice for 23-24 was received, and we have the RCMP projecting to be on budget as of year end. In addition, pressures seen this year were lower than expected Cedar Point tenant revenues. This was with previous construction delays, and we're seeing that vacancy rates are trending higher than originally anticipated. An operator for Cedar Point's affordable housing units has been chosen, and administration is finalizing those terms. Administration is anticipating tenant leases to commence in late September. The above noted shortfalls there have been partially offset by surpluses from various departments. These relate to items such as new funding opportunities, lower operational costs due to a milder winter weather in early this year, and increased membership sales and anticipated savings throughout multiple departments. I'll move to salary variances, which are detailed on page 8. For the period ending June 30th, the city has an overall cost of wages and benefits that was $85,000 lower than budget, and we are expecting to achieve a salary surplus of $457 by the end of the fiscal year. Page 9 of your report does provide further FTE details. You will see that the 2024 budget is higher than the 2023 budget for staff due to the transition of the Grande Prairie Police Service. This means that staff currently paid for by the RCMP contract will be slowly added to the city's full-time equivalent counts. Operating reserves are included on page 10. These are the restricted portion of the city's accumulated surplus, and all decisions made with regards to the city's reserves are approved by council in accordance with policy 346. As of June 30th, 2024, the city has $106 million in reserves. All capital projects have been summarized for this report. That's pages 11 through 28. As of June 30th, there's $90 million in active capital projects, with approximately $20 million of capital projects funded from grants, and the remainder funded through capital tax reserves and debt. Finally, with long-term debt, that is detailed on page 29. There is a balance outstanding at June 30th of $127.6 million. This is well within the provincially prescribed debt limits, with $100 million remaining at council's 80% of the provincially prescribed limit applied. So in conclusion, the city is currently anticipating a surplus of approximately $407,000 at year end, and the city maintains a net financial asset position and accumulated surplus. This indicates that there are sufficient resources to support future services. We are well within the provincially prescribed debt and debt servicing limits as required by the Municipal Government Act, and maintain sufficient reserves to support fiscal prudency. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for the reports. I'll just look to my colleagues for questions. Councillor Berg.
Yeah, thanks, Chair Palat. Ms. Whiteway, I really appreciate the detail later in the report, so thank you very much. A lot of it just out of personal interest to see what some of these projects are costing, so thank you. So my question is on page 6. So initially I'd seen a shortfall in fleet under operational services of $866,250. But again, that's simply an internal charge to other divisions of the city because they've got less maintenance. So to me, that's a positive. Is that correct?
Thank you for the question through the chair. So it is internal, meaning that if there's a revenue shortfall within fleet, you'd see the opposite impact in those other departments. So there's savings within transportation and transit, for an example.
Okay, so in other words, our equipment is lasting longer, therefore we need less maintenance and repairs on it?
Through the chair, I can't speak if that's necessarily the reason, more so that it just may be utilization, original planning, those sorts of things. As to length of use, I can't comment, but just that they are able to do within less budget than anticipated.
Okay, thanks.
Just a couple questions for me. Just when I look at on page 4, when we're talking revenue, I guess it is, seeing a lot of our revenue lines we've collected, but we're still, that 30-ish million lower than what we're forecasting for the year. Are we have any concerns that our revenue is not going to hit our original forecasting for this year?
Thank you through the chair. So page 4, this does report on actuals to date. So there would still be 6 months worth of revenue to collect. The one item that we are anticipating to be short from budget is our court fine revenues. Those were set higher than we're being able to achieve this year. But overall, the balance is we are expected to be balanced by year end. And that's a bit of revenue shortfalls with a bit of savings within expenditures. We aren't expecting, though, a significant decline in forecasted variance in revenues other than those court fine revenues.
Okay. And just something, I realize that the salary is being a little bit higher. Am I safe to assume that's partly because of our police service being allocated in there from the previous year? Or just trying to get my head out, looking at our charts, we have a lot less staff than from Q1 and Q2 than we forecasted, yet we're spending more on our salaries and wages. So I'm just curious, what's making up that difference? Because it looks like we should be under on our wages and we're 4.5% over.
Thank you, Chair Plot. So the forecasted salary variances on page 8, we are expecting by year end to actually see some salary savings. So 457,000 under budget is our current anticipated surplus on salaries. In terms of changes on FTEs, I believe you might be referring to page 9. We did see a drop in employee count from the last quarter, specifically in our casual positions. We do have to do a practice of sort of watching the length of time a casual employee is not taking a shift. So we do have to follow the collective agreement and look at how long it's been. So we do quarterly cleanups of inactive staff. So you will sometimes see a drop when that occurs. If that answers.
A little bit, I guess, yeah, it's just maybe understand the casuals versus the FTEs, because when I look at this, the FTEs saying 774 in the first quarter down to 702 and then 774 down to 720. I guess my head would have thought that we would have seen a savings in our staffing component, and yet we're actually higher in our staffing component this year. So that's just a little bit confusing to me. My last question is just, can you explain to me where it washes out in the program? Maybe it's Q4 with our RCMP contract. You know, if we've got so many positions that we've got paid and they're supposed to be in there, and then we're seeing we're significantly lower right now in numbers. Where does that savings come back into the city? Like, is that Q4 when that gets reconciled, or when does that happen?
Thank you for the question. So the team with RCMP worked very hard to create an accurate budget going into this year. With that, they've already anticipated very accurate employee counts, and we are not expecting any sort of savings from the RCMP budget for 24.
Not expecting any? Oh, that's a bit of a shock to me. Okay. Is there potential to get further? That's a little bit confusing me. I don't want to drive that out, but I'm confused by how it sounds like we're under service with our RCMP, how we wouldn't be seeing a savings coming back at some point this year.
Certainly, I mean, that is something we could provide in addition to council. Okay. We could provide exactly what was budgeted for contracted services from the RCMP and how the year ended up falling out with the reconciliation.
I think for me, it's probably just some confusion with our GPPS and the RCMP crossover. There's some funding difference there, but yeah, just that would be nice to see in a further report. Councillor O'Connor, you had a question? Or Mayor Clayton?
Thanks. Back to page 9.
Mm-hmm.
So fewer overall casual employees from Q1 to Q2, but more temporary employees, but 18 more full-time employees. Am I reading that accurately? But $3 million more in wages in the same period comparison.
Yeah, go ahead, Theoper.
Thank you, Chair Palat. There are a number of factors, but a significant one is when we're looking at our overall budget, we're budgeting to a salary number. The FTE count is something that we do monitor and keep under. There are circumstances where we will utilize temporary to give us some more flexibility, and so that position is filled. It isn't a full-time equivalent, so that's where that salary dollar still gets utilized, but it's only for a short, defined period of time. So it all has to be taken in consideration of all of that together.
And if I may, in addition, we do incorporate what's called managed manpower into each annual budget. So when you look at those variances on page 8, they would include an estimate of what our vacancies look like every year. So already built into your salaries is the potential for vacancy, and the reality of having vacant positions throughout the year. So you don't always just see automatic savings if we are holding vacancies, because we've already captured that within our budgeted salary dollars.
Any other questions from committee? Seeing none, just somebody to do business, please. Councillor Berg.
Yeah, I would like to move committee recommend council receive the unaudited financial statements and supporting information for the period ending June 30th, 2024 for information.
Thank you for that motion. Let's wait for it to come up on our e-scribe here. Please vote. Thanks for that, and that carries. So we have no correspondence, other business, or bylaw and policy review, so we'll come back to Chief Waitway for our outstanding items list, please.
Thank you, Chair Platt. One item outstanding, item 1319, and that's still on track for the fourth quarter. That'll be brought back in conjunction with budget deliberations.
Okay, thanks for that. Just a motion for that. Councillor O'Connor, please.
Yes, I'd like to move that committee receive the August 20th outstanding items list as presented for information.
Okay. Thank you for that. Vote. And that carries, and with that, we will adjourn. Thank you.